So one thing I had written down is wanted to talk about 94 out here. You probably have seen it's taken a toll this last year or two. Our maintenance staffs have been out there a lot, and I'll give you a little bit of background on I think why we got to where we're at. So through the years, we've gone. The government's passed these. For a long time, they passed continuing resolutions, which is the big Highway Trust Fund Transportation Bill. Well, back in 2010, the one prior to 2010, Nathan, I don't remember what it was. It was Safety Lou prior to 2010. I think it was Safety Lou, and these are acronyms for, all the federal funding that the states get from the government. 2010, they passed a bill called MAP 21, and I think it was moving America ahead with progress or something like that in the 21st century. That's what the nickname was. Well, in that bill, they put all these performance measures on the states for your highways. So anything on the national highway system, which is all your roads, like your interstates, your Highway 59s, the ones that have higher volumes, those ones, the feds put performance measures on. Well, and they said if you don't meet your performance measures, we're going to pull the federal funding. So we met as all the districts met and figured, and St. Paul met, and we said, all right, well, if we got to meet these, we can't have all 8 districts going rogue here and kind of doing their own thing. We need to manage this centrally. District said, okay, that's fine. And it used to be in the district's control. We managed all our highways, right? And so they took out all the NHS systems in all over the state, okay? And they started managing the payments and the bridges on the NHS, which was fine. They brought our targets up. They met our performance measures over the last, 13 years. However, somewhere in there, recently now, the Fed said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to hold you to performance measures after this last bill. And so now it's going back to the districts. We're going to be able to manage all our 1,600 miles and 330 bridges in this district. And we get that back from CO, and there's virtually no projects coming up in the next 10 years on 94. So this is a big red flag for me. And there's probably maybe some fault on our district too. We've gone through what we call them material engineers. They manage our pavements in our districts, and they're the ones to catch, run the pavements through the model, and they catch it, says, hey, this the ride's getting tough, or the surface rating's getting, is lower than it should be. We better get a project planned. We went through 3 materials engineers in the last, 10 years, not even 10 years, and it slipped through the cracks. That's all I'm going to say. Between CO and district, I don't have any projects lined up on 94 in the next 10 years. Well, obviously, you all know it's not going to last 10 years. The last project on a lot of it was that CPR job that we did back in 2011 or 2013. I can't remember what, 09 I think it was. We did a concrete pavement rehabilitation project where we went and sawed out and put in a bunch of the rebar or the dowel bars and fixed a lot of the spalling concrete. Well, that's one of the last fixes for concrete. That's one of your last ones. The next fix for a concrete pavement is, you can overlay it with asphalt, or you could do like these unbonded overlays where you put a bond barrier in, and then you pave concrete on top of that. So I am lobbying for money, and that's what I can tell you. I am lobbying for money in St. Paul, and we've had a good reputation in this district. If you design it, the money will come. So we're going to get these projects ready. We're going to call them shelf projects. They're going to be on the shelf, and as new money becomes available, we're going to do our darndest to try to get some. So I don't think it will sit 10 years. It won't sit 10 years because it won't last 10 years. So I'll be working on that. But just some background, that's what has happened. And so we have a lot of pavement around the Fergus Falls area here. That's on 94 specifically. That's in tough shape. And I don't know if you hear anything from people that live around here. Yeah, so that was one of the things I wanted to touch on. I don't know if there's any questions on that one.
I have no noticed.
Hadn't noticed?
Mm-mm.
I don't know so bad on the interstate as is the on-off ramps.
Yeah, the ramps.
Have been tough.
Yeah.
We could drive, if you jump on and head to Alex, or, it's getting pretty, we patched, we
Okay.
patched. We're out there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed the cable barrier. How
Yeah.
tore up that is all the time.
Yep.
Must be all the guys get done.
Well, that and patching. We have 3 cable median barrier high tension trailers, one in Fergus Falls, one in Alex, and one in Moorhead. And we have crews that, they're good at it now. They can fix them pretty quick. Pop the posts out, there's sleeves, so you put a new post in. Detension the cables, put the new posts in. We have some pullers, so these cables, anyway. But it's, we just talked about this recently. We spent $1.1 million in our district alone fixing cable median last year.
Wow.
And that's something that we never used to have, and so it's coming right out of our operating dollars. And
Mm-hmm.
But saving lots of lives, I imagine.
so they estimated it, since we started really putting a lot of cable median, it saved over 400 lives. And I don't know how they calculate that, but it's hit all the time. And I'm kind of lobbying for every foot you can get that median or that cable off the shoulder, specifically in the winter anyway. Snow will stop that vehicle versus wrecking their vehicle, and then State Patrol having to come out and set up lane closures and all this, check semis. But yes, it's hit a lot, but I'm hoping we can somehow engineer, or the manufacturer can engineer something a little bit different. Maybe we can get it closer into the median. I know through Fergus here, it's so wide, so we don't have a ton of it right here. Because we kind of, interstate gets wide for a section here, but a lot of the interstate, we have 114 miles of it in our district, so it's a lot. Since you're talking about that though, with interstate, we're putting in, it's a new federal program called Protect. Don't ask me what that acronym stands for, Nathan.
Well, there's too many of them.
Brian, you remember that one?
Is that snow fence one? Yeah, I don't remember the acronym. I agree too. It's like,
Yeah,
can't keep them.
there's so many grants now, this last bill, you gotta apply for everything now, it seems like.
right?
But,
I think it is that snow fence one.
And that was that one,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got notified.
Is it?
yeah,
Yep.
that's the one.
Yep.
We're putting in for $14 million worth of living and or structural snow fence
Yeah.
from Moorhead all the way to the end of our district, Alex, Wilsacus area.
You
Yeah.
said living or?
Could be a
Combination of
combo,
both,
could be a
yeah.
combo, yep, whatever. Honestly, the farmer, you gotta work with the landowners.
Right.
Some might want, living snow fence, which personally, I like the structural just because it's instant. We get the benefit right out of the gate. The living looks nicer, but it
Maintenance.
takes years, and you got to maintain the stuff and spray the weeds, and yeah, there's just tails to the living.
Yeah, I think we got a letter of support. I got a draft for that project too, for that corridor, so.
You did get one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so.
I think Brian got one, then I got one, and of course, from a responder standpoint, we're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. But I'm like, I'm sending this to Brian just to review before suddenly fire thinks it's great, and engineering's like, oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it's good to hear like a little more about it, just to kind of help us
yeah.
make sure we're sending support to like, what is a good thing for you guys. And,
Yeah, no, it'd be a great project. I mean, as you know, interstates, the blow ice, the wind,
Right.
closed interstate a fair amount. A
Yeah.
lot of crashes. So if we can get that snow fence, it's just amazing the amount of snow it holds back. This snow fence over by Moorhead, if you've seen it, from 336 into Moorhead, we have it basically all lined now, and then Highway 10 along between DL and Moorhead, we put up a lot more of it too, and all over the district.
210, wasn't there quite a bit?
210, Rosse, but this would blanket all of interstate if we would get this funding. It's really, really good product. So we'll be applying for those dollars. What do you got, Nathan?
Not a ton. You guys have got a bunch of federal projects in the works right now. Before I got here, I went and swung through just to see how they're making progress. On forgetting the street name, of course.
Union, Lincoln,
Yeah,
Union,
Yep.
yep.
And I went north and looked at that. It looks good. Got a few more projects coming up in the upcoming years. Big thing for us is with Moorhead becoming a transportation management authority. They're not going to be in our 12 county area transportation partnership federal funding anymore. So there's going to be a redistribution of the federal funds between the cities, and Brian's been involved in the talks on that, and I think we've got a plan to move
I think
forward.
so, yeah.
The big question is going to be this coming fall. We'll get the actual numbers for 2027 as to how much Moorhead will get their allocation, which is similar to what the Twin Cities gets. So they've always been a TMA, so they get a direct allocation of funding. And Fargo-Moorhead Council of Governments will manage Moorhead's allocation. Moorhead, Clay County, and then Dilworth, so in their urban area. So then, once that comes out, then what does our district have left? And what does our urban-rural split look like? And that'll affect how much federal funds the city is able to apply for. So that's kind of our big change federally. From the state aid perspective, it's obviously the passing of this last transportation bill has helped. So we've got, believe it or not, I brought this pamphlet. If you take a look at the revenues, our revenues for this last year were actually down, which is hard to fathom because it seems like everything went up, but the big reason was people just aren't buying vehicles, right? So your license tabs, so the fuel tax revenue part remains pretty constant. Fluctuates obviously with the economy. The stronger the economy, the more people are driving, the more money we get in gas tax. But if you look at that motor vehicle sales tax and then the license tab fees, and if people aren't buying vehicles, well, they're buying older vehicles, they're keeping their older vehicles, so the tab fees stay low, and they're not buying new vehicles, so that number on the motor vehicle sales tax has kind of made it kind of wing. I think you guys about 2% down.
Yeah.
Yeah, was roughly 2% down, which most people are projecting a little bit of an increase, in their budget. So, so that was tough, and of course coming into the legislative session, on the general side of the state budget, the general fund, they were saying we've got billions and billions in surplus, right? And we're coming in saying on our HUTDF funds, we're projecting a decrease or a loss, less balance than previous years. So it was hard for them to understand. The good thing, though, is they did make some changes to our transportation funding. Big thing, indexing the gas tax. Nobody saw that coming, so that's going to be a big help. It won't help like immediately, of course, with indexing. Is just that. It's helping us maybe keep up closer with inflation as things go along. So in outer years, 3 years, 4 years from now, that will start to have an impact and an effect. Some of the one-time things that they did, big help for us for our bridge projects. So there's $100 million in new bridge funding that came out. We are currently sending out, there was a backlog actually of roughly 35 million in projects that were sitting on the shelf, literally sitting on the shelf. Plans were complete. The only signature that needed to happen was my signature saying, yes, there's money in the account that we can actually spend. And we got approval last week. The money finally worked its way through the chain, and we got it in our account, and it was like the dam released. It was like all the letters went out and plans were all signed, and I signed 2 of them yesterday for Clay County. So we're starting to get bridge plans out. So that'll be big. 100 million was also in the different various bills for local road improvement program. That's a program that I was talking to Brian about. Generally, what they're looking at in that program is, the solicitation hasn't come out yet, but it will be coming out this fall. It's kind of your routes of regional significance projects, projects that involve safety, and then projects that involve interaction with maybe a trunk highway project. That's kind of the portion that doesn't get used as often as the other two. The one that I would probably key on if I was the city of Fergus, and Brian and I talked about this quite a bit, was it about a week and a half ago when I came down, is looking at that relative regional significance. What the selection committee looks at for scoring for points is, how many groups can this project affect? Does it have support from, so if the city application, does it have support from the county? Does it have support from maybe an adjoining city, or from a township, or from a business, from the school district? How many community partners are behind this project? And then also, they're looking for projects where this isn't the first dollar in, it's the last dollar you need, right? So you've come up with all of the other supporting money, and you're looking for, the last 750 million and a quarter to get it to the finish line and to get it done. Really nice part about this money is it acts very similar to your state aid funds, so the funds that you get through the HUTDF. It's not tied to special regulations like the federal funds are, so it's easier to get. The only thing is it's kind of a pay-as-you-go system, so when the contractor completes the work, Brian sends in a request for the money. I get that, look at it, review it, sign it, and then within about a week, we get you the money. So it's kind of pay as you go.
Does it matter what the other funds are that are going into it? Like, can it be federal and state?
It can be, yeah. Yep. And we've done that before too, where we have projects that have patchwork funding. And this is the last piece of patchwork funding that you need to just get it done. So, yep. We had talked about maybe roundabout projects that you guys have got going on, or with the county on the north end of town. Maybe that could be a possibility. Just some examples in the area that have gotten LRIP. Probably the big one that I always go back to is, so it'd be the extension of Dakota down in, so it did a bunch of traffic. So from a safety standpoint, it relieved a lot of pressure on that intersection that they have with 29. And then second, it just opened up another route for folks to use to get to the commercial area. So for a city, that's kind of, and the folks who run the program like it so much that that's the picture that they used for their cover for the program, for the pamphlet. So, other one would be City of Moorhead got one for their reconstruction of Center Avenue right in front of the Moorhead Center Mall. So they looked at that. They combined a bunch of different types of funds to try and do that. road diet project, had a lot of support from the businesses in the area, got letters of support from them. They showed they were going to do a road diet, they were going to do major improvements on the boulevard between the business faces and the street. It's going to be broken into. You're not going to be competing against Minneapolis, right? So we have we have MSA cities. So cities over 5,000 are in one category. Counties are in another. Small cities and townships are together. And then I think we have a pot for tribes as well, for tribal organizations. And it's all kind of, you're not going to be competing against, you're not competing against Ottertail County. So when you put in an application, you have to worry about that. It's not like they're going to have to worry about signing a letter of support for you guys and vice versa. So that's a big program. Safe Routes to School got another bunch of money as well. Off the top of my head, of course, I can't remember the number, but it was significant. I mean, more than they've received before. Our active transportation pod got another bunch of money, and all the solicitations for these will be coming out fairly soon. So you guys got a bunch of active transportation money here recently.
Mm-hmm.
The letter came out within the last week.
Last week, yeah.
So, and I don't think I know really much of anything about the project. So, Randy, what does the project entail?
Sidewalks at various locations and everything. I got to review it myself.
Okay.
Like I said, I got declined and kind of shelved it. So I got to revisit it all right now, but yeah.
So yeah, it's a little under 400,000, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to bring that to council here.
Just was awarded.
Yeah, we just got
Okay.
last week notified, so I'm like,
Nice.
It was one of those things where the no letters went out because the first time around we had very little money. It was kind of seed money to get the program going with the last legislative session, and then they had success with it. Right? They saw the need because they got hundreds of applications. And they said, okay, well, this is clearly there's a lot of need here, and so. The legislature funded it again, and Fergus Falls was in the round. So rather than making folks reapply who had already applied and had good applications, we just didn't have enough money to fund them. We just said, hey, can you let us know within a week if you
Yeah.
can still deliver this project?
right. So I was like,
So that's kind of where that was coming from. So. I think if there's anything else big or different or changing.
It's the NEVI program, we touched on the electric, but
Yeah, so we do,
National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure. And I think 94 is on the route. It's 94, 35, and possibly 90 are the three routes that they're looking nationally to start. You know, basically, if you got an own electric vehicle, what are the national routes people can get across the nation? And so those are the three routes identified in our state initially. I mean, at some point you'll see these things everywhere, but this is the infrastructure, the kind of the seed money to, from what I understand, I'm not running it, but I've heard enough presentations on this. We are, you know, we have a consultant working on where these things should be. Pretty sure Fergus is one of them. Or is it Alex? I can't remember. It might be Alex.
they were doing something by Perkins, but I can't remember what familiarity with that one. Was that Ottertail Power was? I can't remember.
Yeah,
think
that's the
there's a-
thing, these fast charging stations, they have, according to what I'm hearing, is they need like a direct line from the
transformer.
the transformer station to the charging locations. You can't, if you
Yeah, the
drew power
infrastructure.
off of the city of Fergus Falls or whatever, it draws too much.
Huh.
So they need like a direct line from these substations.
What I've heard from electric vehicle users is that there's a lack of the fast charging stations between, I think maybe the last one is St. Cloud area, possibly, and
Yeah.
then I think there are one or two in Fergus, but So it would make sense if Alexandria was on that list as a
Yeah.
stopping point.
You know, it's Alex and/or Fergus. I can't remember. I want to say Alex, so that's what's in my brain right now. But anyway, those are coming through that NEVI program, and ultimately, you know, the build out. We don't want to own the things. We just want to. Right? Initially, the Fed said, "Okay, we'll give you money to get them built. Then you work with your locals for the private parties ultimately, because they're going to be charging. We're building the infrastructure, but then we don't want to maintain it. So
So it would be private entities who would
Private
make
entities.
an application, or is it, how does it work?
Right now, I think her name's Amber Dahlman. She's in St. Paul, and she's leading this effort around the state. I can get you the information on that, Clara, and just I'll talk to Amber and see what the scoop is. But I don't think it's an application type of thing. I think they are searching out the locations where that need to be,
I see.
and then they're talking with either the Targets or the gas
The
station
Perkins
owners or
or,
the
yeah.
Perkins where to put these things. So I don't think it's an application yet. Not that it won't be, but
So speaking of electric vehicles, we had a solicitation, it's for federal funds for the carbon reduction program. And part of what is eligible for carbon reduction program is for municipalities to lease electric vehicles and or install charging stations. Otter Tail County put in an application and was successful. So we're working through the process with them to get the environmental work done, find ways to get the leases going, and then install the charging stations. So within probably the next year, you'll have to kind of ask your friends over at Otter Tail how that's going. If it goes well, I could see possibly, as we get, I think it's 600,000 annually for this carbon reduction program. So it could be a possibility where if you have a fleet vehicle and it's getting to the end of its service life and you wanted to try an electric vehicle, right now it has to be a lease, but it might be a possibility where the feds could pay for one of your fleet vehicles if it's something that you're interested in. So
did Moorhead receive?
they
They got Moorhead and White Earth, and there was some.
Yeah, White Earth is doing a compressed natural gas bus.
That's what it was.
Yep, they're doing a bus. Big Stone County is going to try an electric vehicle for their fleet, and then Otter Tail.
Yeah.
And we'll, it's kind of nice. They're kind of being the pilots on this one. So a lot of other folks were a little more reluctant, not really sure how they would fit it into their fleet. Specifically, our counties were looking at it, well, can we use it as a construction pickup? And then they're looking, well, there's really only one that meets the requirements. It would be the Ford Lightning. Trying to find a Ford Lightning is very difficult. So they're like, maybe we'll let other folks take their first shot at this and we'll see what happens. So right now, the county is looking at doing it. I think they've got a couple vehicles in mind that they're looking at. So.
Is there information on your website for that?
On the electric vehicles, or
Yeah.
well, see, that's the tough part. I mean, we've sent out the funds, and they're looking and trying to find vendors that can provide the lease. That's been the interesting part is working with the different dealerships and the different manufacturers. Can they provide a lease option that'll work? So I think they're working through. County was trying to work through. What's the name of the service?
Sourcewell?
Sourcewell, yes. They were trying to work through Sourcewell and see if the feds would accept Sourcewell as their, having done all the bidding requirement parts. We'll see what the feds say. If the feds say, yes, this works, then I think others would be more apt to say, okay, well, if we can do it that way, then that takes out a lot of the bidding issues that we have. So, yeah, more to come. I'm hoping that at an upcoming, maybe joint city-county meeting, if they get this through and get it and successfully implement it, we can have a lessons learned, and
Sure.
the county and city engineers can listen on how it worked. So,
Well, we're getting pushed all the time to get something electric in our fleet. Right now, the purchase price doesn't make sense. So if we can lease something and get the infrastructure paid for it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
that's kind of what this program, part of it is to do.
Could reach out to the city of Morris is really, they're like really proactive on electric and solar, and you know, they got the U of M, they got some agreements with the university, and but is Blaine left now, but who's his replacement?
We haven't met her yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
Anyway, when we meet with them every year, that's a big part of what some of the discussion is, this electric grid that they've been putting around Morris, and anyway, they have a lot of electric vehicles in their fleet. Yep.
So, more to come.
Couple projects we have coming up too, just for FYI, I guess. Let me see here. So in the near future, as you know about the interchange up here in 24. And then we do have out in 20, let's see here, looks like in 27, or project number 27, yeah, project 27 and 2027. That's on 59, from 94 up to Pelican. Looks like we're also replacing the bridge, must be the bridge over, I wonder if that'd be the Pelican River out of, can't remember what bridge that is, but that'll be if it's a bridge replacement, there'll be some sort of detour on 59. What else do we have in the area here? Project number 15. Looks like we have an unbonded over 2025, yeah. From basically Fergus to Rothsay. We'll be doing eastbound lanes. That's the unbonded overlay, so that's where we put in that thin layer of, it's called Pazrac. It's just a basic, kind of looks like asphalt, but it's really porous. It kind of acts as a barrier between the existing concrete and the cracks, and it's flexible, more flexible, so they don't transfer up into the new pavement. That's the purpose of it, and then it drains water. It's very porous, so any water that comes into the new pavement drains out, and it doesn't, you don't go through the freeze thaw. Yeah, so that's most of them in the area. Project number 19. Let's see, reconstruction. Oh, that's in 20. Yeah, did I say 24 for the next year? So it's 2026. It looks like is the bridge replacement on 94 and then the roundabouts. And then the outer years, looks like we have, it's a ways out, but 210. Hopefully we can make it. The road can make it. It's got a lot of truck traffic on it. We have that scheduled for 2032, so it's roughly 9 years out yet. We'll have to keep that one together. That one we might have to move that up in the program, because I think that's starting to get fatigued. And then 210. Project number 47, also in that same year. We may want to consider, I don't know how that ended up in the same year, but we may want to look at flipping one of those projects into a different year versus having all of 210 being constructed in the same year. Kind of two separate projects, but it's still.
It's out there a ways yet. There's still a lot of time that it could
Yeah.
That could
we
get
We
changed.
could move that around, yeah. So basically, the 4-year, this is our STIP, so these projects are pretty set in stone. The CHIP, which is our 6 years beyond the STIP, that's just our 10-year window. So these projects are more flexible. We can move those around. These get a little bit more tied down in our 4-year plan. Of course, Pelican Rapids that's the one I was thinking of. Pelican Rapids is next year. So that's a big project. It's pushing 20, what is that project pushing? It's Pelican number 7, 23.5 million. We're basically reconstructing all of Pelican Rapids. 59 and the 108s, both sides, east and westbound. And then we're taking out the signals and we're putting in roundabouts at the 2 intersections there. Which thankfully Senator Rasmussen has been supportive because some of the businesses and public in Pelican have not been the nicest about it. Been pretty vocal, but Jordan's been very good. He's supported us all the way through. And, yeah, so. What else? You guys got any questions or anything that?
The current work on County Road 15, that overpass over the bridge, over the interstate. What's happening? What's happening there? Any ideas? Is that your guys' project or is that a county?
It's the county.
So it's a bridge that spans over the interstate.
There was damage, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gerald and I talked about that yesterday. Yeah, it got hit.
That project,
Yeah.
yeah.
What hit it? Do you know?
I don't know.
Hmm.
It was one of those things where there was damage on a bridge in Clay County, the road that goes into Downer, on Clay County 10. So they were repairing that, and then driving through, happened to look up and saw it and said, "Whoa, what is this?" So yeah, they're going to come up and start taking a look. The structural engineers out of St. Paul are going to come up and take a look at it and figure out a plan with that one. There may have to be lane closures on that one, like what we had up on the 10. So that will probably be something we'll be talking with Kristen about next. So,
Is that usually the repairs like keep one lane open on the bridge, or is there a possibility that the bridge could just totally come out?
it depends on how bad it was hit and
With beams
what they
and
can
everything.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want a structurally deficient beam.
Oh,
so
for sure.
They'll put a closure on that side,
Okay.
run traffic, and that's what we did on the one in Clay County is just run traffic, put up those little stoplights that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Are
what's
tied
out
to one
there.
another,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what's out there now.
yeah.
Depends.
So that could be up there a while depending on
Okay.
how severe the hit was.
Good.
But,
Yeah, we'll find out what their structural engineer says. Go from there. So,
yeah.
Okay. And will you guys, or does that get reported through Brian? I mean, it's not really in city limits. I asked that, that is one of our only paths out that way besides going all the way around out to the airport, which there again, that's just a coordination thing on our end because there's also the rail traffic. If a unit train was out there, then we're really pickled to get to that area because we also have the river that runs south, or Dayton Hollow. So it's just a more challenging area that we would just need to coordinate some emergency services out there.
right. Yeah, it's,
The one-way traffic's no big deal like that. At least there's a way out there. Just
Yeah.
if the bridge totally comes out because of the damage would be
I doubt it will. We usually can fix them
good.
without taking out the whole bridge.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you can't control and just get damaged. It's gotta be
No,
fixed.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunate. Tough ones for you.
and we don't take risks on bridges.
No,
So,
no.
I mean, it just isn't. Yeah. I mean, if there's something that needs to be done, we'll have to, if it has to be shut down, it'll have to be shut down.
Yeah.
Depending on how severe it is. Most of the time, you're right, they're just,
Couple beams, one or
Yeah.
two, the first couple beams usually get damaged.
Okay.
I called Ryan last week, I just haven't heard back from him yet, but at Lincoln Union, there's some, it's a 94, 59, and 210 sign up on the traffic light structure that needs to be replaced, and I just didn't, the question was if that's ours to replace or yours.
So it's at Lincoln and Union, and it's a sign on the signal?
Yeah, it's on the overhead going north.
Oh, okay,
On Union.
on Union.
Yeah. We'll get it replaced if it's ours to do, but it's just hard to make.
I'll have to probably call her, we'll talk about our traffic engineer. There's usually agreements out there between the two parties, and we'll figure out whose it is. If we can't figure it out, we'll have somebody reach out to you.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
We have a sign truck now up in Moorhead too, so
Yeah,
it's not just the folks from DL that will be coming down, so we have more coverage. Trying to be more on the 94 corridor, so.
The island where the traffic signal is at 210 in Redwood Lane. You know where you did that overlay last year?
Yep.
Or that intersection?
Yep.
The island is just full of weeds, and I think there's actually a sapling growing up in crack. Are you okay if we just take care of that?
sure, we appreciate it.
We'll send you a bill.
Sure.
No. Yeah, like we talked about last year, because it's there, it's in Fergus Falls,
Right, yeah.
we get the complaint.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We were able to borrow the paver from District 1. They're the only ones in the state that has a paver. It was kind of a perfect storm. We were at a maintenance expo where all the districts get together and they share certain technologies that, we're the only district that has these cable median trailers. Innovations happen all over the state, right? So they get together and they share this stuff so then other districts can, utilize or go down those paths. And we were at that one, and D1 had their paver there as a demo. And so our maintenance supervisors, I talked to the other district engineer, I'm like, hey, could we borrow that for a couple weeks?
That worked out.
It did work out, yeah, yeah. One last thing, I guess, like you mentioned too, is just the 210, I think we talked about it last time too, that rumble strip that the contractor put in the center line, and they used the wrong mill. So you've probably seen our maintenance staff go out there, there's concrete kind of spalling out that center line, so they went and patched a bunch of rubber mastic on it. We do have an active lawsuit with Mark Sand and Gravel on that. That'll likely go to court. We're so far apart, I don't think we're gonna settle. So it'll likely go to some sort of mediation and court, but just FYI, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.